The corruption case against former Eskom CEO Matshela Koko and 18 co-accused has officially been struck from the roll.
The Middelburg Specialized Commercial Crimes Court made the decision due to unreasonable delays. It's advised the National Prosecuting Authority to provide a letter from its director if it wants to bring this matter back on the court roll.
Well, so far, the accused, including Koko's wife, stepdaughter, are said to have unduly benefited from a contract awarded to Swiss company Asia Brown Boveri. It relates to a 2.2 billion rand contract for the construction of the delay-prone Kusile power station. Get you more on that story now. Bring in Director of the Accountability Division at Outa, Advocate Stefanie Fick. A very good evening to you, ma'am. Good to have your time. So, Matshela Koko, tonight then celebrating, if you're feeling quite confident that basically he's overcome, but has he really? Because the door is still open for this case to be re-enrolled.
Yeah, I think he's celebrating a bit too soon. You know, in terms of our Criminal Procedure Act, a court can, in terms of Section 342A, hold an inquiry to just understand, is there an unreasonable delay? And this comes from an accused right, in terms of our Constitution, to a speedy trial. And then you also have this whole fair trial concept in our Constitution. So when the state asked for a postponement, every time that there's a postponement, whether it's from the state or the defense, the court has to assure itself that the delay is reasonable, the postponement is reasonable. So in this instance, the defense was saying, you know, this case has been postponed for so many times. And then the court has to take in a lot of factors before it comes to this decision. And I think what is very important that even the court has said, in order to understand my ruling, understand that I did not, judge the merits. This is just a procedural sort of order to say, listen, unfortunately, there is now an unreasonable delay. I'm going to remove the matter from the roll. But once the state is ready and they have the written instructions from the NDPP, they may re-enroll. So the state may still prosecute Koko and his co-accused.
But it's not a good look, is it, for the state that it's basically seen so many delays in this matter to the point where a magistrate has said, well, look, at this point, it would disadvantage the accused. It would go against their right to a fair process, basically, to continue because the state simply does not have its ducks in a row.
Unfortunately, it's not a good look. And this, if you take into account that in Parliament, you know, the NPA was saying that we are making good headway with, prosecutions, and that once the IDs, in terms of legislation, the fact that they exist and that is made permanent, that there will be more prosecutions. So I do think this is definitely not a good look for the NPA. But, objectively, I think what it did show is that firstly, we have a criminal justice system that works. Because if you are on the other side, let's forget about the fact that these are serious allegations. If you are on the other side, you would want the court to take into account any unreasonable delay. And there's a lot of factors a court takes into account. This is not a decision that a court takes lightly. But then on the other hand is that the state must get their house in order to bring the accused before court, because everybody has shouted from the rooftops. I think South Africa needs prosecutions and accountability of the persons that were implicated in state capture and these types of corruption cases. So on the one hand, it's good news because our criminal justice system is working. And then on the other hand, it just shows I still think the problems we face with prosecutions, with investigations, because this is, shows that, after, since 2017, the investigations haven't been completed. And that is a worry, because if you then also read that with the fact that our crime rate is through the roof, hopefully this also sends a message to, the powers that be, is that we need to solve this problem immediately. Is it a resource problem? Is it a money problem? Or is it political will to investigate these cases?
It chips away, though, Stefanie, doesn't it, at public confidence in the NPA, because with each high-profile case that collapses almost, because some of them have fallen apart when you consider the likes of what happened with Nulane and Nulane. I'm still not too sure on the pronunciation. You've got this one with Matshela Koko as well, where there have been so many delays that it simply is unfair to the accused to keep the matter on the roll. It chips away at South Africans' confidence in the NPA's ability to go after the big names, whether it is successful in getting a conviction or not.
No, of course. No, it definitely. If you were just an ordinary citizen, you do not have to understand the criminal justice system to understand that yet again, it appears, whether it's correct or incorrect, it appears that someone is getting away, and it is because of a so-called inability either to investigate or to prosecute. And, if you are an ordinary citizen sitting at your house, realizing that there's a crime problem in South Africa, where is the trust? That's why I think, if you speak to sexual crimes victims, a lot of other victims, theft of cattle, etc., that that because of the trust deficit, people are no longer have the confidence to go to a police station and lay a complaint, because you may just, not always, but you may just be given the runaround in laying a complaint, and then it takes years to investigate, if at all. And then once it comes to the court, you also run the possibility that you will sit there for days on end, and then the case gets thrown out. And that really is not good for that trust in our authorities.
I said at the beginning of our conversation that Matshela Koko has made his feeling about today's proceedings clear. A short time ago, in fact, in a lengthy post on X, formerly Twitter, he said this, that the NPA misdirected itself, he says, by charging him, and it did not act without fear, favor, or prejudice. He then basically says that what happened here was the result of a persecution, if you will, because President Ramaphosa wanted him out at Eskom. Is he a man who's been unfairly persecuted, as he says?
No. I knew when I heard that there's going to be a feast on Twitter, and it's, you pick a platform where, the arguments can't flow. I think if you just think about what the court has done today, the court has just said that there's an unreasonable delay. It didn't go into the merits. It didn't tell Koko, but I actually think that this is a persecution and, you shouldn't be prosecuted. It was just that there's an unreasonable delay. So, the fat lady hasn't sung. This is not an end to the prosecution. And although, let's put a little bit of a positive spin, because we need to work on this trust deficit, and that there's still hope that, prosecutions will happen and people will be held to account, is that, my advice would be is that watch out when the NPA is ready, and that our criminal justice system is saying that, come to the court and you have a right to defend yourself. But the state has also the right to put the evidence before a court so that a court can decide whether you are guilty or not. But I do think that the information available in the public sphere is to such a degree that one would think that a prosecution is due in this case.
Stefanie Fick, good to speak to you, Executive Director of Accountability, the Accountability Division at Outa.